What's up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome to another episode of the Dansg08 podcast. In this one, I'm going to be joined by Mike from Gamers Little Playground, and his channel is focused mostly on video game movies. He's someone I've known for a very long time. Mike has been incredibly successful on YouTube and as a businessman, and we're going to be talking a bit more about the business side of YouTube, the video game movie space, how the platform has changed, his journey to success, and a whole bunch of other things that I'm sure you guys are going to find interesting. So I hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. What's up, everybody? How's it going? It's Burke, aka Dansg08 here, and today I am joined by Mike, aka Knowledge from Gamers Little Playground. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, bro. I appreciate it. Hi, everybody.
It is good to have you here, man. One element of my channel that I no longer kind of do as much is the video game movie stuff, but I really used to love it back in the day. So why don't you tell the listeners who you are and what you do on YouTube?
Yeah, so I'm the owner, creator of the channel Gamers Little Playground, and we're mostly known for being like the game movie channel. Uh, I would say we like mass produce, I guess you could say, that type of content. And it's not what I started out. I was the editor at first. I did like Halo 3 edits and Call of Duty edits, but it's just something I love game stories. So I don't know. I just tried one. It went well. And then I decided to make the whole channel about that.
Awesome. We're going to get much deeper into the history of your channel and how you got into it and all that. But let me just let me flex on your behalf a little bit for the listeners. So basically, in terms of channel credentials, Gamers Little Playground now has 2.21 million subscribers, which is just incredible. And to me, like to me, the more impressive number personally is the channel has over 1 billion views. It has like 1.1 billion views, which is just absolutely incredible. It's a great achievement, man.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a long time coming.
It's the I looked at the channel start date. It says 29th of December 2009. So you've been in the game a long time.
Yeah, yeah, over like 12 years now. Been a long time.
It's insane. And the way me and Mike first met, it's so long ago. Oh, my dog's barking. Hold on. Sorry. Yeah, the way we met, it was a very long time ago. I don't really remember any details from it, but I'm pretty sure I probably contacted you first, maybe through YouTube's like personal message stuff, like long time ago.
Remember that? Oh my god, that's I completely forgot about that until you just mentioned it. Yeah,
Yeah, because I was looking at Twitter DMs, and like the oldest DM I sent you was from like 2015, and it was
yeah,
clear that we'd spoken before that, but I don't know where. So it must have been through YouTube's like personal messages or something. And I think like our kind of communication up until today has always been a sort of we're two channels that, especially when we first met, we were doing similar sort of things. And you especially in those days, it was much harder to get information, like insider information about how certain things worked. And so if you had something that you didn't really understand or you needed advice about, you couldn't really just Google it and find information. So you had to talk to other people that were doing what you were doing. And I'm pretty sure that's how we first met and got to chat.
yeah. I'm positive that's what it was. Like it was probably some network issue or some algorithm issue, and it's always good to just bounce off other YouTubers because it's like you said, there's really nothing. Even now, there's a couple channels dedicated to that type of stuff, but nobody knows the analytics like we do because we live it every day. So it
Absolutely, yeah.
definitely was that a private message on YouTube.
Yeah, it's a really long time ago. I mean, I remember back then, I think maybe, I'm trying to think, maybe I had like 20,000 subscribers and you had like 70, 80,000 or something. So, especially your channel, it's just come such an extremely long way from those days. It's just absolutely insane.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, been on my grind for the past 7 years. Been trying to, make it a living and all that. So
It's come a super long way. So, let's get into the story of like how did this thing all happen for you? Like, have you always come from like a media editing kind of background? What's your story been for this sort of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I've always enjoyed editing. I remember having when I got my first computer. I got my first computer late. I was like 14 years old. But I remember back then, I was really intrigued by Windows Movie Maker, and I would make those videos where you just do like auto fades with pictures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, other than that, I didn't go to school for editing or anything like that. I actually went to school to study sociology at UC Berkeley.
Hmm.
Um, and then I was in education. I would plan to be like a teacher for the rest of my life. But in that meanwhile, I had a YouTube channel and I really enjoyed editing montages. I started like I really like in that time there was like that dubstep crazy over edit stuff, so I would do a lot of that. And my younger cousins were really into Call of Duty, so they would give me their clips and I would edit for them. And that's what my channel was really about in the beginning. And I wasn't consistent or anything. I would just post once every couple of weeks or months, just for fun, um but I did, as I was learning the editing, I was fell in love with it completely. Like that's what all my mind was always on, editing, on just learning new stuff. But I was kind of jaded by the channel because I thought I did good work, and at that time I probably only had like 1,000 subscribers. Even though I thought, it's like, wow, my editing is really good, but I'm not getting any views. And just for fun, when Modern Warfare 3 came out, I decided to do a game movie because I had seen other people do them at that time. And I remember with Gears of War 3 specifically, like I played 1 and 2 and I love the campaign and the story, but I just didn't have time to play 3. And I just kind of wanted to see what the story was about. So I looked it up and I found it and I was like, oh, this is cool. This is a good format where you just kind of get the story stuff. And back then too, it was only, I don't know if you remember, it was only 15-minute videos. So they used to
Yes.
do
Yes.
they used to do those game movies in like 20 parts. But anyways, I did it for Modern Warfare 3 like the day it came out, and I got like 20,000 views per video. And I was kind of, you know how it is when you get your first video of a lot of views, it's kind of like shocking. You're really don't understand why. Like why am I getting all these views? What's going
Yeah.
on? And I ended up I still, even then, it didn't hit me that I was just like, okay, that's cool. I just kept doing montages. um then when Halo 4 came out, I did a game movie for Halo 4. It started taking off. I got partnered by Machinima, which back then was like the thing. It's just the only thing I really wanted was just to get partnered by Machinima, just so I could say that I was partnered by Machinima.
Yeah.
I got partnered, and then I gave away my channel to a fellow editor. And I'm from Los Angeles. I left Los Angeles. I went to San Francisco, to the Bay Area, to work there, and I just left to go work there the rest of my life.
Wow.
And I know that, like, I thought that was gonna be it. But while I was there, it didn't work out in San Francisco. I didn't like my job, and my editor friend was jaded by YouTube too, and he decided to quit. And he told me like, "Hey, if you want your channel back, I mean, you can have it." At the time, it had like 1,500 subs. He's like, yeah." He's like, "It's your channel. Like, if you want it, you can have it back." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And then I saw that the Halo game movie was doing really, really good. And then I don't know, it just finally hit me, and I was like, "Hey, I could do a whole channel with just doing these type of videos." And when I came back home to Los Angeles, I kind of pitched it to my sister, who I told her like, "Look, I really want to try this, but I want to go all in. Like, I don't want to work and do this on the side. Like, I want to give this my all. Are you willing to let me live in your house, like in a room for a couple months, like rent free? And, I'll pay for my food or whatever, but let me just do this and see if I can make it work." And, to my luck, she supported me.
Damn.
And then that's when I went in full time in 2013, like summer of 2013.
Mm. That's dedication, man. Seriously, that's a really cool story. Actually,
And,
that is crazy. I mean, it's such a turning point. Like the way that things didn't work out over there, and then your editor friend said you can have the channel back. There's so many like little forks in the road where if you just made a different decision or things played out differently, you wouldn't be where you are today.
yeah, and it's funny. That's how life is in general. There's so many kind of butterfly effect moments where if you just would have turned to the left, you wouldn't have met the love of your life. Or if you would have just opened this door, you wouldn't have met this person, that was going to change your life. And That's just the way life is. It's crazy.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny. I actually I have a video on my channel that's literally about the butterfly effect that I experienced with Final Fantasy X, which is the game that set everything into motion for my channel. And
Mhm.
the listeners would have all heard the story, but just so you can hear it as well, just very simply, the main catalyst for me ever playing Final Fantasy in the first place was that my dad was a courier driver. He used to deliver parcels for a company, and
Mhm.
one day he delivered to a place. He doesn't even exactly know what it is, but I would imagine it's some sort of office for like a gaming publication or something. And while he was delivering a package there, they just said to him like, "Do you have like a kid that plays video games or anything like that?" And he said, "Yeah, like my son's interested. He plays video games and that kind of thing." And they said, "Oh, we've got a few of these like old review discs lying around. Like maybe he'll enjoy playing these games." And they just gave him like a couple of games. It was Final Fantasy X and Virtua Fighter 4, and he brought those home one day, and I didn't even really know what Final Fantasy was, and I was like, okay, like this is strange, and then I just started
Yeah.
playing it, and the first time I played it, I didn't even really get that into it. It was just for some reason it just didn't click with me, but then like later on, I gave it another go, and then from there on, I just never looked back, and it's weird to me because like maybe if that game never arrived, because back then before I was playing Final Fantasy, I was much more into sort of arcade games, sports games, platformers. I didn't really
Yeah.
play very like narrative or RPG kind of games. And maybe by the time I did properly discover Final Fantasy, it would have been too late, and I never would have really got into it or made a YouTube channel and that kind of thing. So it's just sometimes these like coincidences or like these things happen in life, and they completely change the direction of everything.
Yeah, especially with it's funny thinking about the RPGs because it is like if you don't get into them when you're young, it's kind of harder to get into them when you're older because it's just like a completely foreign thing. I can see why you didn't even like it in the first place, or not maybe not like it, but you just didn't get that into it when you first
Mm,
played it because it's so different than any other type of game, especially in that time. If you're playing like Sega Sega sports games,
yeah.
then you jump into Final Fantasy and you're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was just like, FIFA and Gran Turismo and those sort of games that I was playing. So Final Fantasy was just sort of very out of left field for that. But I
Yeah.
think one of the ironic things on my channel was that for all the Final Fantasy stuff that I'm known for, and that it was the reason I made the channel. The video that I blew up with, you said how like everyone has that one video on their channel that blows up and you don't really know why.
Hmm.
Um, Mine was a Gran Turismo video. So I'd had the channel for about
Really?
yeah, it was like 2.5 years, and I was at uni, and Gran Turismo 5, I think it is, came out, and just for my own amusement, I thought let me just like record some content for it, and I made this like video of a flying overtake where there's like I think it's in Need for Speed 1 or 2 where like the car literally jumps over the other one on a ramp and overtakes it like literally in midair,
Hmm.
and I managed to recreate that in the game somehow. And I thought it'd be fun to just upload that. It was like a 59-second video, and I just uploaded that. And like the next morning, it had like 28,000 views, and I was like, wait a minute, my entire channel's got like 10,000 views, and what the hell's going on? And it just went crazy from there. And it was just another one of those weird like turning points after that video. It's just mad.
I think for anybody who doesn't do YouTube or hasn't had that experience, it's a dopamine rush that you get, like where you just want to recreate it. Every video you're hoping that you get to have that moment again where you're just like, wow, it's a hit. This is great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I guess it's kind of like what musicians feel like when they make a song and they just hope that it's a hit.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Like, you want to tell all your friends about it. Like if that, I just never forget. I was at uni, and once that video did well, and it was like I was just telling everyone I knew. I was like, oh my god, I made this video. Everyone's watching it. And then a few days later, YouTube sent me an email saying, "Do you want to monetize this video?" And I was like, "Hell yes, I want to monetize this
Yes.
video."
Yes, please. Yes, Lord. Thank you.
Exactly. And then I did that, and I think that was the only video on the channel that they let me monetize at the time. It was just one video, and I think it was earning something like £5, or like $6, $7, $8 a day. And I remember telling my friends like, "Dude, this is insane. I'm just like I'm doing nothing, and I'm earning like $7 a day." And as a student, like any kind of quote unquote free money is just crazy. Like everyone's like, "How did you do it? Oh, I want to do it as well. I want to do this." It was a crazy time. It really was.
Well, how long after did it take your head to click to be like, oh, if I just have like six of these, like then I'll be making a couple thousand
Ex-
dollars a month.
exactly. I think. to be honest, it took quite a long time after that because it was probably just a case of I didn't really know how I did it still. It was just such a unique and one-off video compared to everything else on my channel. It was like, okay, I made this, but I was like, I don't really know how to replicate this.
Yeah.
And so after 2 weeks as well, I had a copyright issue because I used a popular song. Again, I knew nothing about how any of this works, so I had a popular song in the background. And I think 2 weeks later, YouTube finally caught up with it, and they were like, "Hey, wait a minute, you've got a copyrighted song. You can't monetize this anymore." And so then the monetization went away, and so it died off for a while. But I got that, like you say, I got that dopamine shot, and I was like, "Wait a minute, I can see that there's something here, but how do I replicate this and that kind of thing?" So I started to just make more content after that. And for me, I was never like in the early years, I never had enough subs to get partnered by Machinima or anything like that.
Mhm.
But I got in on the wave when you started to get all of these like smaller random networks that were like, "Oh, even if you got 500 subscribers, we can partner you."
Yeah.
And of course, in those days, you don't really care. Oh, is it whoever it is? You're just like, well, these guys are promising me the option to monetize all of my content, and all I need is 500 subscribers. So of course, I'm going to apply if I have the chance. And so from like, I think it was maybe like a year or so after that first hit video I made, I started to get a bit more into it. But I think for us, it was similar. Like 2013 was the year where I really sort of started to record in HD and try and upload in HD and make higher quality content. I got more into video game movies. I started doing commentary playthroughs. So 2013 is like the real, I think, growth of my channel as like a professional sort of thing, I would say.
Yeah, I know that's when you got on my radar because I mean I studied all my competitions, so like I always remember seeing your, I believe, Last of Us game
Yeah.
movie.
Hmm.
That one was a hit. I think maybe Bioshock as well.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, so like I remember I was like, oh damn, this person does them too, and I always liked yours because you did kind of like extended versions. Yours are always longer than everybody else's.
Mm.
So, so I feel like you always put more care into like the gameplay and the editing, whereas a lot of other people, us included, to be honest, like will do it a little more like, all right, let's just cut it up really fast as we can, you know.
Yeah, yeah, that's something
Um,
I definitely want to get into as well because I think with us we're kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum from like a business standpoint and how we approach like the video game filmmaking thing. And I don't think it's a case of like one does it better or worse than the other. It's a conscious decision to make it one way or another.
yeah,
And so for me, it was always a case of like I picked games that I was genuinely really interested in the story of, so that's why my output is extremely low compared to someone like you or your channel.
yeah,
And I was a lot more sort of focused on the editing. It would take me a longer time to do. I used to play the game in a specific way so that I could edit it a specific way. I'd have to do like I know that there's a lot of channels. I don't think you upload that much in terms of walkthroughs, or am I wrong? It's
no, no, not really. No, no. I sometimes we do, but yeah, not really.
Yeah, so there's channels out there. For me, it's very clear that they play the game from start to finish, and they use the same content to do their walkthrough videos as for their quote unquote video game movie.
Hmm.
And to me, that way seems super lazy. And I was like, I know I can do it better because the way that I'm playing when I'm actually doing a walkthrough of a game, it's not how I want to play it when I want to tell the story of a game. So I always did a separate playthrough from the start to be able to turn that into a movie later on. So that's why on my channel, let's say the last time I did it was for The Last of Us 2. The LP slash commentary walkthrough is always a different playthrough to the one that you see in the movie version.
That's crazy.
To me, that creates like that makes the content that I'm happy to make. Like I think I make good video game movies, but when you look at it from like a business standpoint and a view standpoint, especially after like 2014, 15 onwards, the competition just got so intense and everything just got so much to do with the timing and how quickly everything came out that like my philosophy of video game movies just kind of just didn't work anymore.
Yeah. I mean that's true. I mean it's there's definitely a spectrum. Like I would say on one side has to be God, what's his name? And
Gilliand, I think
yeah,
something
and
like Gillian,
yeah,
Gilliand.
yeah, that's
Yes.
right. Andy Gilliand. he literally plays the game maybe like 3 or 4 times
Yeah.
he does, or maybe he records all 4 times. I don't know, but he takes absolute care. Like he takes like 3 4 months to do a game movie, and
Hmm.
it's like it's perfection.
Yeah.
Um,
Agreed.
and in the early days, he got a lot of views on
Hmm.
his because there wasn't a lot of competition.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, there's the other side of the spectrum, which is just like beat it as fast as possible and just cut it up just to show cutscenes and whenever they talk, and that's it. Like it doesn't matter. Anything else doesn't matter. Just cut it up and put it up.
Hmm.
I like to consider at least myself and our channel is like in the middle.
Hmm.
I definitely care about the quality a lot, but at the same time, like you said, I consider it a business.
Hmm.
And very early on, I saw it that way where I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna do this, I gotta make this my life. Like I'm not going at this shit halfway.
Hmm.
So everything I did from 2013 till now has been with that in mind. And what I did in the beginning was I knew that I needed to get somebody else to work with me, and it was hard at first because I wasn't making that much money, so I had to
Yeah.
kind of sell people on the dream and be like, look, you play the video game and I'll edit it, that way you can focus on playing, you don't have to worry about none of the other stuff, and I can take my time editing. So that's I got a friend of mine who started with me. He's not doesn't work with me anymore, but in the beginning he was like, all right, for sure, I'm not doing anything. And I feel like that's what balanced my channel out, and that's what made it successful. Was that it's not as good as yours, it's not as good as Andy Gillian's, but it's not as bad as like some of the other people's, where it's just kind of like they don't care, they'll just play it as fast as possible and beat it as fast as possible. So it's kind of like a on my channel, I guess it's kind of like a production line in a way. Like
Yeah.
one person focuses on this, the other person focuses on this, and then we can both do our jobs to the best of our ability in this short amount of time.
Yeah. I think in terms of a workflow and a production style, I've always like when I mention your channel, to me, I don't mean this in a bad way, but I see it as like a factory for content in that sense.
Yeah, it's
And
true.
I think it's very clear that, and like you've explained, that's what you've gone for and that's what you wanted to do, and you've done it so well. So at the moment, is it just you? Has it always just been you and one other person, or is it a team nowadays to get all of this content out?
No, it's definitely a team, and I have other channels too, which like people don't even know about. Like it's created like a YouTube empire, like
Damn.
like um. But what the way I did it, which I wanted to get people who are like partners. So what I did was I offered people a percentage, half of each
Hmm.
video. So if you play the game, I give you half. I'll edit it forever
Hmm.
in perpetuity.
Okay.
And so I went through a lot of different people. Like a lot of people were like, okay, I'm all about it. But then when they wouldn't see the money come in right away, they'd get
Yeah.
demotivated.
Yeah.
Eventually, my cousin came on with me probably like in late 2014, 2015. And he just really stuck. Like he was highly, highly motivated. And together we're able to like bring it up. And then now we'll probably have like 6 people who play games for us.
Hmm.
I play sometimes too, but for the most part, like I edit, my cousin edits, and we
Uh-huh.
have like a production line basically. Like they play the game, they take their time, they send us the files, we edit them, we
Hmm.
do all the tags and the descriptions and the thumbnails and all that, and then
Hmm.
we give them a cut. Like every month they get a paycheck that depending on
Yeah.
what your video did. So I from the very beginning I just thought about it as a business. Like how can I make this work as a business?
Hmm. It seems like that model of payment, how do you deal with, like, it seems like it requires trust. So that person trusting that, you know, because as you know, obviously the ad revenue can vary so much from video to video. These guys
Yeah.
need to trust the fact that you've given them, okay, this video really did earn $100 this month or whatever it is. So it seems like it's something that's difficult to sort of get going in terms of the trust for people as well. How do you let them like access the information?
Nowadays is easier because you can actually give people access to your analytics without having giving them access to the channel, which is of course like I don't want to give anybody just anybody access to the channel.
Exactly, yeah.
Um, but before, these are all people in my life, like people, friends, cousins, stuff like that. So
Hmm.
they trust me. They know that I'm not gonna fuck them over, and that just from a lifetime of just being that type of person where I'm not gonna fuck you over. Like I'd rather die than fuck you over. Like, it's just part of the whole honor thing. But either way, even in the beginning when there wasn't like a lot of videos, I would kind of print out a thing and be like, okay, this video made this much, this video made this much. But after a couple months, it was just too much to do that because there was too many videos coming out.
Yeah.
Um, YouTube does have a playlist function in your analytics, so that makes it easy. So like
Hmm.
I'll say like if I had you on a playlist, I just put all your videos on that list and then just see how much that list made. That list made $1,000, so you get
Okay.
50% of that.
Okay. Cool. Makes
You
sense.
know.
Yeah, it seems like you've definitely figured it out and got it down to a fine art. Actually, I one time I did the same thing that a similar thing to what you did, but I was on the other end in terms of there was a bigger channel. I think I'm not even sure if they exist anymore, but it was like Games Access HQ or Games Media HQ or something like that.
Oh, the trailer channel.
Something like that, yeah. And
Yeah.
I think it was like 2013 or 14, and I was making the video game movies, and I think it was Arkham Origins, I think
Hmm.
the Batman game.
Yeah, 2013.
Yeah, and he approached me to say like, do you want to make a video game movie for my channel? I'll upload it to my channel, and I'll pay you. We'll split it 50-50 kind of thing.
Hmm.
So I had to play and record, and I sent him the final movie, and he would give me 50% of what the video earned every month. So similar kind of model, and I did something like that, and it was funny because I sent him. I think it was like a 2 hour, 50-minute cut, and then I said I'll only do it if I can make my own like director's cut and upload it to my own channel that won't be the same as yours.
Yeah.
You can upload this one first, but I want my own version too. And it was funny. I think my version ended up outperforming his one in the end, like in the long run. And
Damn right.
and I think for the first few months we did the whole. He sent me a screenshot of how much it earned and all this kind of thing. And after a time, it was just getting a bit like because that was the only video I ever did for him. We didn't have like an ongoing working business relationship kind of thing.
Yeah.
After a time, he was like, "Let's just agree on a fee where I just pay you this, and then we're kind of done with this." And so I kind of crunched some numbers, and I said, "Okay, if you give me this much, then we'll call it even, and you can just keep the video and just you don't have to pay me anything again." And that was the only time I ever did it. But other than that, it's just I prefer to just always do my own thing, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's just easier that way. With us at this point, it's like people see it as a big opportunity. If we're like, oh, you want to play for us and this and that, so that they'll do it. But definitely in the beginning, it was hard. Like it was definitely hard to get people to come on, and I would have similar issues. Like I've had issues just like yours right now, where it's just so and so person did maybe 10 videos for us, and in the beginning they did good, but then they stopped working, and then after a while I'm paying them like $2 a month or something. Like, so it's just like, dude, let me just buy you out. Like, here's $30, like just call it.
Exactly. But I think one probably good thing for you, I've been thinking about this sort of stuff, and you're probably fortunate in the sense that you're more editing focused than playing focused, because I think one of the more difficult things and one of the reasons I like to record separate playthroughs is because I always feel like these channels that focus only on getting the content out as soon as possible, they just, they play through the game once and then they just slice it all up and upload it straight away. Surely these guys can't get the same level of enjoyment as someone that's playing it a bit more sort of without the same stress and time pressure and need to just be so quick and all that kind of stuff. So for you, because you don't have to play the game yourself like immediately at release and just crunch everything out, you probably get to enjoy the game as well in your own time when you need to.
For the games that I love to play, yeah, I'll go back and play them myself. But I would say like it's probably somewhere in between enjoying and kind of like, oh man, the time pressure, because it's part of the sacrifice you make.
Hmm.
um and it's just the same. I think it's the same with anything that you take up to that level. Like if you ask a basketball player, a professional basketball player, like it gets to the point where when you're what you love to do becomes your job sometimes, and that's just the truth of it. It's just like
Hmm.
the people who are playing the game when it just comes out, like they feel that pressure no matter what. They can't take their time.
Sure.
Luckily, the other thing that we are lucky in now is that we do get the games early.
Hmm.
So that helps, because before, I'm sure you did it back in the day where it's like day one, or we used to burn games on for the Xbox 360. I don't know if you did that too. uh, and then like you would really play under pressure because it was just a race to get it done.
It was really, if you're kind of deep into the stuff and you need the views to sustain your income, you're trying to do this more professionally and stuff. It really is just like by any means necessary, really. And
Yeah.
I think for me that's what makes it so difficult. I mean, back in the day, the reason why my The Last of Us did so well was just because, quite simply, they leaked the game online early, and
Hmm.
people that had custom firmware on their PS3s could get the game like 10 days, 12 days, something before release.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure you probably did the same. I'm sure some other channels are the same. It's you have to if you know that everyone else is going to be on this, it's just stupid to be like, oh no, I'm so ethical, I wouldn't do this. I mean, I had a paid pre-order anyway. I was always going to buy the game and play it anyway. But in terms of making this content, it was like, well, the game's available. I have to get on this and start making this content, otherwise I don't have a shot. And well, it's one of the best decisions I made because now it's just sitting on like 9 million views.
Hmm.
So it was definitely worth it. And it does get difficult, but I think for me, and again, the way that I create the content is just it's almost impossible. Like the last time I tried it was The Last of Us 2, which I only got like 3 days or 4 days before release, and it was just like the way that because I need to play through it twice, and because games these days are so freaking long. Like even The Last of Us was like
Oh, 20-hour game. Yeah.
seriously, it was just insane. I was like, when is it going to end? It got really annoying. Like it was just so long. And then before that, it was Final Fantasy VII Remake, which obviously because of my Final Fantasy content in general, I've Square Enix, they like the channel in general, and so they sent me the game like 10 days before release, and even that was like literally, I only just about managed to get everything done, and it was a hell of a crunch, and it's just like I just can't be doing this. It's like it's not really sustainable.
And it's just not fun, especially if you're doing it by yourself. I mean, you just be depressed.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the biggest motivation is the fact that I there's a few things, but the first is, of course, that I only do this for games that I'm seriously interested in the first place. So maybe, let's say, for Gamers Little Playground, you guys have more of an obligation to basically make content for whatever game is coming out because
Yep.
that's how you guys do it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Exactly. But for me, it's like, I might, even when I was quote unquote in my prime, I was making maybe two, three video game movies a year. So it wasn't like an ongoing day to day crunch to try and constantly make content. So that made it much more bearable. But the second thing is that because I play through the game as like a commentary playthrough first, I still get to have my sort of normal, regular experience with the game. And so that makes it like that softens the burden a bit. I still get my normal sort of enjoyment playthrough, and then once that's done, then I have to play the crunch game to try and play like the movie version and get that edited and out as soon as I can. But it's really like hit and miss. The Last of Us 2 was the final straw. I thought because the first one had 9 million views, it would be silly not to do it because the second one surely is going to get some
Yeah.
residual views from that. But I think for me, like the God of War was the final straw really when I was like, this just doesn't work anymore, and I had to release it two weeks after release because I didn't get the game early, and I did my commentary playthrough. Then I took about 10 days to record and edit the movie, and I really loved it. It was technically probably the best movie I ever made, and I think like a year later it had like 18,000 views, and I was like, yeah, I think it's time to
Fuck
call it
this.
quits. Yeah.
That's like, fuck this.
Yeah, it's game over. It's like I can't be doing this anymore.
Yeah, I completely get you. I mean, that's a good thing. That's why it's good too that your live stream is done so good, because then you have your niche, and that you don't need to rely on doing that anymore. Um, I know for us too, the thing that helps us is because we do have several people. We have people who specialize in things, so they get to enjoy it either way. Even though we do every single game, We have a specific person who likes Souls type games. We have another person who loves RPGs. We have a person who loves shooters. So it's just kind of like we can still balance out our enjoyment of the games. It's not just like, all right, I hate RPGs, but I got to play Final Fantasy. It's like, no, the person who plays it is the person who loves RPGs.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to do it as well. That definitely
Mm.
makes sense. It's
Mm.
a good model. So what's been some of your channel's biggest hits in terms of like movie stuff that you've done?
Well, GTA is the biggest one.
Mm,
That one has 40 million views,
wow.
and it's crazy too because it's not good. Like it's like one of the early. It was so it came out in 2013.
Okay.
Uh, Halo 4 has like 10 million views. Um, fuck, I don't know. There's so many. There's so many like multi-million um on the
Yeah.
way over. It sucks too because I do, like I said, I do enjoy editing and I take pride in the creativity, but
Hmm.
doing game movies is just cut and paste work, to be honest. Like
Yeah.
that's all it is. And I have done I call them director's cuts too.
Uh-huh.
Something like Halo Reach, for example. I did a thing where I did the entire campaign in theater mode and I got custom angles
Nice.
for everything. So like the entire game is in theater mode.
Yeah. See that's to me like if that to me is like the real sort of video game movie experience. If you got the time to play and edit it that way, I think that's when I first got into it, that was always my dream to sort of make those kind of movies if I could.
Yeah, and I wish I could do that because I have so much fun doing them, and then when I post them, I'm like at the edge of my seat looking at all the comments because you want the feedback.
Of
Where-
course, yeah.
Whereas when it's just kind of like a regular game movie, like I don't. I mean, I'll read the comments and I'll respond, but it's not something I'm like. I'm not proud of it. I'm just like, here's the content that you want to see. I'm giving it to you because I know this is what you want.
Hmm.
But it's not something that I'm necessarily so pumped up about.
Yeah.
Um, and those director's cuts take a long time. I did it for Halo Reach. I did it for Halo 4. I started one for GTA, but I had to take down. I did GTA 5. Like I was gonna do it in seasons, so I did them in 30-minute episodes.
Okay.
And I did 6 episodes, and they actually did really good. But then they got copyrighted, and so
Uh,
I ended up taking them down, and I never finished the series. But that was by far the best work I've ever done, and I was so proud of it. Like I cried when I had to take it down because I was at the time I had 2 strikes, and so
oh,
I didn't want to risk like getting the third one.
yeah.
But it's painful because those videos you tend to spend a lot of time on, and they don't get as many views as it would if you just released it on the first day. Whether it was badly edited or not, it doesn't matter. If it came out the first day, then
Yeah.
YouTube is anybody who's done YouTube knows it's not about who does it best, it's about who does it first.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I know for us, we were able to at least balance it out now because we own that term game movie. There's been so many times now where people break embargo or they post it before we do, and we'll end our game movie ends up having the like if you look a year later, we'll have the most views just because like the algorithm is in our favor. Like
Hmm.
period. Like if it's a game movie, the algorithm will let us win in the long run. So we're able to be more chill about it now. But definitely, like 4 years ago, it's like it doesn't matter. It has to be out at the time the embargo is done. That's the time it has to be out. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter how well edited or how well played. It does not matter. It has to be out at that time.
Yeah, 100%. I think for the Final Fantasy VII remake movie that I made, I actually had it ready before embargo. But because Square Enix sent me a copy of the game, I was like, there is no way that I would risk doing anything stupid and uploading the video like earlier than I should. And so for me, because they also said like at the embargo date,
The ending.
don't upload the ending. So I was like, well, the embargoes, I think it was like April the 9th at 2 p.m. or whatever, like my time. And I was thinking, well, if I make it go live at that exact moment, technically I've uploaded the end like right on the embargo. And I was like, I can't be getting into Square Enix's bad books just for one sort of video. So I was like, let me give it like 12 hours or something. So like the actual release date, and I'm pretty sure even those 12 hours that it made all the difference. Like I would have probably got like double the views if I didn't wait.
100%. Like you would have had fucking 7 million views on it right now.
It's one of those things. It's really frustrating, and I think like, ultimately, as much as I love doing it and that kind of stuff, barring like very special circumstances where I get the game like super early and I've really got a lot of time to sort of work with it and be ready for it, it's something that I had to retire from. But I had a great time making it, and I'm very proud of like the archive of videos that I have for the video game movie stuff. It was a good time.
See, and that's the thing too. That's nice that you can look back and be proud of it. You can be proud of The Last of Us, like because you know how
Mm-hmm.
much work you put into it and how good it is, and
100%.
that's something that I personally appreciate. And I can honestly say that I don't look back at every single video we do with pride. It's just kind of like it is a production line at times, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I do appreciate that you do it the way you did it because there's a lot to be said for that. There's a lot to be said for not compromising your quality for it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just something I was willing to compromise for business purposes. And I mean, I've always been honest about that with people because it's just like we're a business, so I don't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah, that's fair.
Mhm.
And I mean, at the end of the day, I think what's good is that you've talked about how basically now that your channel is so large, it kind of it propels itself, and I think that's also what makes it very difficult for a channel like mine. Once your competition starts to have 3 times, 5 times, 10 times, 20 times the number of subscribers that you have, then even if you upload at exactly the same time or you beat them to the punch, their sort of trickle down economics is going to beat you in the end because their channel is just so much bigger than yours now.
Yeah.
And so, like you say, like when it's all said and done, it's very unlikely that you'll be able to compete in the long run. So if you've already lost that sort of ground, it seems very, very difficult to keep up. So I think that's good. And at the end of the day, you've managed to build something that's given you the power to leverage that to do other things. So what kind of stuff have you been able to do outside of the video game movies using the success that Gamers Playground has had?
Well, for one, like I've bought a couple other channels, which is nice,
Hmm.
and then able to run them and be successful with those. The main thing I'm proud of is I have a esports team that I co-own with one of my cousins
Hmm.
called Team War, and it's a thing that we've been building up for the last 3 years, and I'm very passionate about esports and specifically like we're very into competitive Call of Duty.
Okay.
So that was like one of those things where it was just like, man, we really want to own our own team. And then eventually we just got together and just like, man, let's just do this. And part of owning a team is like, you have a team, you fly them out to events, you pay for their hotel, you go out to events, travel the world doing that. And that's the type of stuff it's been really nice to be able to do that, to have the money to do that and to be something that you're very passionate about and invest in. But we're still small. Hopefully, we'll make it one day. We'll make it like we'll be like one of those big teams up there with fucking Cloud9 or something like that. Um,
When it comes to esports, I'm not that huge on it. The only esports that I have sort of a surface knowledge of is probably the Counter Strike scene because I've
mhm.
got a friend or two that's big into Counter Strike, and I've seen like a few of their sort of tournaments and that kind of thing. But esports has always just been huge, and I think especially if you're passionate about that kind of thing, having like a foot in that industry, it's one of those. It's just going to keep growing over time, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I mean, it's already really big, but it's just gonna keep getting bigger. And it's just that was something that I was always in. Like I loved MLG. I loved competitive Halo 3, competitive
Hmm.
Call of Duty, and it's just I don't know. I just like that. That's what I enjoyed most outside of playing stories was just getting on Halo 3 and trying to get my rank 50, get my 50 rank, get rank 50
Yeah.
or something like that. Like that's what I really love to do. Um Outside of that too, the channel has been so I did I was fat all my life. I've been a big boy all my life. And having a YouTube channel didn't help that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I ballooned up to 460 pounds. Like I was really big. Like
That's insane.
those last like 90 pounds I stacked on while I was doing YouTube because all I was doing was just all day was just working on videos. Um, but because the channel was successful, I was able to. Well, for one, I started losing weight by doing like diet and exercise.
Hmm.
But I was able to get my surgeries done because of the money that I've made with the YouTube channel.
Ah, right. Okay.
I was able to get the skin removal surgery after I lost all the weight. So that's just been
Hmm.
that's a blessing. That's something that I know I would never have been able to do on like a teacher's wage. Like I just would.
Yeah.
It's impossible. It costs a lot of money.
Sure.
Um,
Isn't I do I remember when I first met you, and I think your like 2015 YouTube profile picture or something, or
mhm.
not YouTube, Twitter, and it's like, yeah, like you definitely were very overweight, but like the way you are now, I don't think I don't think I know anyone that's ever lost that much weight before. It's an insane number. Like, how much weight did you actually lose in the end then?
200. Well, I lost 230, and then they took off another like 20 pounds of skin.
That's you lost like a big human being. Like
Yeah.
you were like more than two people. It's just insane. That's
Yeah.
so impressive. It's such a great achievement. So I think like it's one of these things that it's on everyone's mind. Even if you're like, you know, 5 kilos, like 10 pounds overweight or 100, it's one of those things that everyone's kind of a bit conscious of and like thinks about. So I guess you're probably pretty well qualified to give some advice to people on like how you did it and
I think the number one thing is just to count your calories. Like I would get MyFitnessPal. It's a free app. You can count your calories on there. Like let's say you eat a banana. Banana is 110 calories. You eat a McDonald's cheeseburger. It's another like 500 calories. You input your weight, input your height. It tells you like how much you can eat a day and not gain weight, how much you can eat a day and lose 2 pounds a week. And to me, that's what I needed. Outside of, well, I got diabetes, so that kind of woke me up because I was feeling all the symptoms. But the app itself is what allowed me to understand what I needed to do to lose weight, and I saw instant results. Like you could technically like eat pizza every single day. You shouldn't because it's unhealthy, but you
hmm.
you could eat pizza every single day as long as you stay under the calorie amount, and you would lose weight. Like,
Yeah.
you'll have clogged arteries, and you'll probably fucking have a hypertension and high blood pressure, but you could lose weight. So it really is to me, like that made it like a game to me. Like it was kind of
Mm.
like I was inputting my stats, and then I was able to just lose weight that way. I don't know, like my Fitness Pal, I highly recommend it to anybody. I would do fucking free commercials for them. That's how good that shit is. Like,
It's funny you mention it because I was actually chatting to someone the other day that was talking about that app as well. They were using it, and I think one common thing that I see from like people who I talk to about weight loss is that it's one of these things where it really is the simplest answer is usually the correct one. It's just literally just eat less. Just like it really is
yeah,
that simple. There's not like some magic voodoo crazy routines that people do. They just start taking control of what they're eating.
yeah. I no, don't do any crazy diets. Don't, it's not rocket science. It really is like just exercise more and eat less,
Yeah.
and that's all it comes down to. And like having that app was just it just helps you track all that. And for the most part, you always underestimate how much you eat, and then when you're inputting it, you see how much. Like I don't know if you guys have like Denny's over there. Have you eaten Denny's before?
When I was in the US, I think I ate once there, but like, yeah, I get the idea.
So yeah, it's a popular like restaurant. We eat breakfast there a lot.
Hmm.
You can eat a just regular breakfast like egg, bacon, pancakes, whatever. Like that one breakfast is like 1,500 calories
Yeah,
when you should only be eating. If you want to lose 2 pounds a week, you probably can only eat 1,500 calories a day. So there in your breakfast, you ate all your calories for the fucking day. Like,
yeah,
and it's eye opening when you see it like that. You're like, wow, I didn't realize I was eating this much.
yeah. I think that's probably one of the things that people get wrong the most. Like they underestimate how many calories they really eat, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Other things too, where it's like I was eating fruits for it's like I wanted to eat healthier, so I was just eating a lot of fruits. But then a lot of fruits have a lot of calories and they have a lot of sugar too. So it's
True.
I would eat like maybe 5 bananas thinking I was being healthy, but that's like almost 600 calories just in the bananas.
True.
So
And I think in the US, one thing I definitely did notice was that like the portion stuff in the US is kind of legendary for people that don't live there. Like, the size of the drinks at Burger King and whatever.
super size me.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember going there. I have a bit of a fast food vice. I love fast food, always have, but I try to kind of limit how much I eat just to keep my weight under control. And like one of the first things I did when I got to the US was just like I went to a Burger King and I just like ordered like a supersized meal or whatever, just to experience like the supersize effect. And like that drink was just enormous. I never
Yes,
forget how big that drink was. I was like, damn, this is like double the size of a large in the UK. It's just mad.
they're huge, and you'll get so many calories from the drinks. That's the worst. Like soda, quit soda. That's the second one. Quit soda and count your calories.
True.
Yeah.
How did you manage to integrate like exercise into it? Was it something that initially you just didn't really focus on, it was purely the eating, or did you really make an effort with exercise? Is it like a lifestyle thing for you now to
Yeah,
exercise?
it definitely. I never enjoyed, let's say, like running or anything. So I
Hmm.
started by riding a bike, and it was hard at first. Like I could barely ride. I could ride around the block, and I'd be winded, and I couldn't go any further.
Hmm.
But I look at life in a very kind of step by step process, which is I just approach everything that way. Did the same thing with the YouTube channel, which is just like I'm leveling myself up. So I understand that it's a process. So when I started doing exercise, I didn't get demotivated when I would be tired after 10 minutes, because I knew that, okay, next time I'll do it for 12 minutes, and the time after that I'll do it for 15 minutes. Um, and luckily biking was huge for me because I ended up enjoying it a lot. I didn't realize I would, and now it's part of my life. Like I'll bike every day if I can. I'll do maybe a 30-minute bike or ride session, or like an hour ride session. And that's a huge thing. But I don't know, I think also for anybody who's not used to exercising, you start noticing how better you feel after you exercise consistently. Like you actually feel happier, you feel healthier, and you get addicted to that feeling. And I didn't realize how bad I felt until I started exercising. And then I look back at how I used to feel. Like I felt tired all the time. I felt sleepy. I felt winded, like, and I couldn't go upstairs and not. Then I would be breathing hard, and it was just horrible. And I didn't realize how much better I felt in general now that I was exercising. And you get addicted to that feeling too.
Yeah, I can definitely. For me, it's always been very difficult when I talk to people about exercise. In terms of like my own story with that stuff, I ever since I was a little kid, I've been like a sporty, athletic kind of person. I mean, I played football, well, soccer, pretty much every single day of my life
Hmm.
between the ages of like, I don't know, 6 to like 18 or something like that. So I was always like in pretty decent shape, always running around like athletic and that kind of thing. But when it came to a stage in my life where I wasn't able to play sports every day, it became a case of, well, I'm starting to put on a bit of weight now and I'm less fit than I was before. And the only way to really correct that is to do exercise. And it's like, but I don't like doing exercise. I like playing games, like to get me out onto like a soccer field and I'll play for 3 hours until I collapse. But put me on a treadmill and I get bored after 3 minutes. And it's just like,
Yeah.
how can I like stay motivated to do that stuff? And it's been like for most of my adult life, it's always been a struggle for me. Thankfully, like I've never really been overweight, but it's something that I'm always kind of conscious of because I know if it spirals out of control once, I don't have a particularly good diet anyway, and so I need to always just keep it in check. So even though I've never gotten to that stage where I've genuinely embraced and enjoyed doing exercise, I just try my best to power through it. And I think, like you say, like when you're done, for me, it's still I'm at the stage where it's very difficult to motivate myself. There's always that voice in my head saying, "Oh, just skip it for today, just don't bother."
Hmm.
But once I'm finished, it's always like I'm glad I made the effort and like now I can just enjoy the rest of my day. And so I'm always glad once I've done it.
Yeah, because you do feel that kind of little high. Your body feels high after you're finished. So at least you get to look forward to that feeling. I guess it is different for you too because you've never been that overweight. Because that for somebody who's been as big as me, that's a motivation. Like that's motivation because you think about like fuck, I don't want to get this big again. Fuck that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. So I because I see it a lot where it's kind of like people who are really athletic and healthy younger, and then they get into their dad bods in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
later on because you never knew what it was to be overweight before. You never had those limitations, so it's actually a more difficult for somebody like you later in life
yeah.
because you haven't had to form those habits. Like you're not forced to eat better.
Yeah, it's I definitely agree, and it's in my family it's a little bit genetic. Like we're generally sort of athletic looking until like our mid to late 20s, and then after 30, and like people get married and they start getting the dad bod, and then it's never the same again, and then everyone's just like a bit overweight. Like we
Hmm.
don't have that many people that are really overweight, but it's just never the same. And so I saw that, and I was like, I need to start forming a bit of a lifestyle and start acting now. Otherwise, like it's just gonna be too late, and I'm gonna be older. I'm gonna have different responsibilities. I'm just gonna be lazier, and just like my body's not gonna respond as well to the exercise and that kind of thing. So I thought while I'm still young, I gotta keep this stuff in check. Otherwise, it's just gonna catch up with me, and I'm not gonna be able to fix it.
It's a good thing you did. How old are you? But I'm 35, by the way. If people are
Okay.
wondering, I don't know if you want to say your age.
No, I'm 29, so I'll be
Okay.
I'll be I'll be 30 this year. I started when I was thinking back to it. I started I started YouTube when I was 16, which is just like
Damn. Yeah,
it's
you're
crazy.
young.
I was literally just a kid. Like I look back at photos of me from like that time in my life, and it's just like, damn, I was literally a kid. It's crazy.
That's that. I wonder too if that affected how you looked at it at the time. As far as like, I wonder if I were that age when I would have started, if I would have looked at it the way you looked at it too. I think maybe because when I really got into it and went full time, I was 27.
Okay,
So I was kind of at that age now where like, all right, I can't fuck around anymore.
exactly.
Whereas when I was a teenager, when I was in college, I was very like romantic about stuff, about like you got to do it the right way, and you're really hardline ethical, black and white about. I looked at the world in a black and white way, whereas as I get older, I look at things more in a gray area.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think it does shape your YouTube philosophy, like as a content creator. The fact that I got to start in a time when there was no monetization, or I didn't need money because I was just a kid, like living with my parents anyway. I had no financial obligations or responsibilities. I could 100% just make videos for fun, and I
Yeah.
didn't have to think about anything. And I guess looking back on it now, like as someone who's almost 30. I look back on it, and obviously it's easy for me to say, oh, well, if only I'd have started doing this earlier or did that earlier, maybe the channel would have been bigger by now, and I could have been more successful in this area and that area and kind of thing. But
Hmm.
I think it's just one of those things where everything worked out kind of the way it was meant to. Like we were talking about like our backgrounds. I studied economics at uni. That was the career path that I'd set myself on, and normally that's what would have happened. But the YouTube channel was already sort of completely like hobby. I had a few hundred, maybe not even a few hundred subscribers, maybe even less than that, maybe like 30, 50, 80, I don't know.
Hmm.
And I think for me it was fortunate because I studied economics, but for whatever reason the course that I did, even though I did it at a good like reputable uni, the course had a lot of independent study. And I've never been an independent study guy. I'm the kind of person that tries to understand as best as they can during the class, and then I'll crunch before the exam for like a few days, and I'll just try and like get through.
Hmm.
And that meant I had a lot of free time. I think I had like 12, 15, 20 hours of lectures a week. Like that was all. And the rest of the week, it was supposed to be like, oh, you're supposed to do, I don't know, 40 hours of independent study a week. And obviously I did like two. And so
And the rest you're on YouTube.
exactly. And then the
Yeah.
rest was just like I had a lot of free time to just like play games and start making more YouTube content. And obviously when that coincided with the time when when I had the overtake video that got like ended up with 2.5 million views, it was everything just sort of the stars aligned in a way where I was like, well, I've got the time to sort of get into this. it's just so strange. It's like things you don't think about. Like at the time, I started to see commentary videos like doing well, and I was like, I actually want to try this. I didn't even have a headset. I didn't have a mic. I've never used a mic. And one of my housemates, he had like a headset. I think it was like an Astro A40 headset or something.
Oh,
I was like, dude, can I just borrow this? I want to try doing like a commentary video. And so like I borrowed his headset to make like my first like few playlists before I was like, okay, maybe I should just get one for myself. And so
stop borrowing my fucking headset, man. Jesus.
exactly, I just kept stealing the guy's headset, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I need to start like getting my own shit.
I mean, but that's what you were saying about that you ended up doing something different. That's such a common story. Especially, I would say you're probably the last generation of that era of like when we were growing up. Like you went to college and that's it. There was no other option. Like either that or you're forfeiting your future. Like your
Mm,
whole future was to go to university, to go to college. And there are so many people that I knew that I went to school with who like didn't know what the fuck they wanted to do, but they had to study something. So it's like, oh, I guess I'll do political science, or I'll do economics or whatever. And the same thing happened
mhm,
to me. I just
mhm.
picked sociology because I randomly took a class and I liked it. So I was like, oh, I guess I'll major in sociology and do social work and do education or something. I don't know,
Yeah,
like, and that was the story for so many people that I know and knew at that time, because it was just kind of like you just went to college and that's all you did. Now you have the option to make your life on the internet. Not that it's easy, I don't recommend that, but at the same
no,
time you have that option.
yeah, absolutely. It's difficult now because I kind of struggle with how to advise people because especially like people that aren't that familiar with the YouTube space is one of those things. It's such a new type of career to have that like when you tell people about it who aren't particularly well versed in it, it's always there's so many questions and like how does it work and all that stuff, and it's hard to explain to people that it really is difficult, but you don't want to sound like you're making your career sound like, I'm not a miner going down into the mines and, fighting for my life to try and feed my family or whatever. Not that kind of difficult, but it really is a challenge. Like for someone, let's say today, you have a dream of saying, okay, I want to be like these guys. I want to have my own gaming channel that's going to, make a living for me. It's fucking hard, man. And it's hard for me to convincingly tell someone that, yeah, you've got a serious shot at doing this. Like, honestly, I don't think people do. It's just a lot of us guys, like considering like when we started and the lucky strokes we had along the way, there's just such a big element of luck involved. And like you say, like so often it really isn't always, I think especially in gaming, it's not always the best content that ends up making it to the top. So I've always found it very difficult to advise people on what to do if they have a dream of being a YouTuber.
It's hard, dude. I have thoughts on this. I have many thoughts on this. Let me put you guys on game. Oh my god. All right. Don't quit school. That's number one. Let me just say, before I say I'll give people advice, as somebody who's been doing this for 10 years, I can something that really disturbs me with I sound like an old man, like these fucking kids nowadays. Something that really disturbs me is the counter education narrative we have going on. Whereas like there's like, oh, fucking Bill Gates dropped out of fucking college, and I don't need to go to college, this and that. Like I really don't like that.
Hmm.
I agree that the education system is pretty messed up and that it's overpriced, at least in America. I don't know how it is in the rest of the world, to be honest.
Hmm.
But so I get that there's a lot of people out there who are trying to tell you like you don't need to go to school. You can just follow your dreams. You'll be okay. But I'm a big like I think that you should get educated. I think it helps you learn how to learn, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah, I get you.
and that's a big thing with YouTube, which is like the people who have become successful, it's like it's not the best content. What they did is that they learned how to finesse the system. They learned how to analyze the system. YouTube is all about the algorithm.
Hmm.
The content is secondary. The algorithm is what's important, and that's just the plain truth of it. Of
Hmm.
course, it helps to have good content. That helps a lot, but especially in the gaming world, every single person that's taken off at one point figured out something that somebody else didn't know.
Yeah.
I remember in the early days, people used to put, for example, in the early days, people used to put all their tags in the description
Yeah.
because because they were finessing the system. Because when you did that, then the algorithm would favor you because you had more keywords. You doubled up on your algorithm. And so
Hmm.
people like White Boy 7th Street, people like T Martin, like those are early Call of Duty people. Even people like the
Okay.
Rad Brad, because the Rad
Hmm.
Brad started out as a Call of Duty commentator. You
Okay.
finesse the system, you
Hmm.
know? And then same thing with, you see that now with titles. Uh with the titles in our gaming subset is like, before you would do something like Last of Us all Ellie scenes, for example.
Yeah.
Now the title would be Ellie stabs the shit out of Joel. Like,
Yeah.
like the title literally tells you what it says, and it's just, that's like an evolution of people figuring out and
Hmm.
analyzing what's going to get views, what's going to make somebody click on the video.
Yeah.
And education helps you with that because you're analyzing things and learning how to learning like how to study this. It's a lot of analytics into it. If you really want to become successful, it's all about learning how to read the analytics and using them to your advantage. And we do that all the time. Like, I do that all the time.
Hmm.
A good example for me I always remember is I have this video about Harley in the Arkham series. We call them like, we would combine this, all the like Harley scenes from all the Arkham games, and we just call it the Harley story.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and then like the thumbnail, it was like a sexy Harley thumbnail, like kind of like really skimpy. Like it wasn't even in the game. Like it was just like a
Yeah.
sexy wallpaper.
Yeah.
And it didn't take off. I was surprised because we had done the Joker story and that one got like 1 million views in the first week. And then
Hmm.
we're like naturally thinking the Harley story would do good.
Yeah. I mean, it's got the sexy thumbnail. It has to work.
Yeah, so I was like, I was wondering, like, what the fuck? Why isn't it taking off? What's going on? I was looking at the analytics. I'm sure it's for your channel too. The majority of our viewers are male. Like 93% of our demographic is male.
I think it's. I think for my channel, it's around 85%, but it's very heavily male dominated. Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine because Final Fantasy, there's a lot more female fans, so
Yeah.
you would get
Hmm.
those.
Yeah.
For this specific Harley video, it was about 55% female viewers.
Hmm.
Um, because Harley has a lot of female fans. She
Yeah.
has a lot of fans. So I was like, hmm. So we thought, let's change the thumbnail. Let's just make it like a regular Harley thumbnail in a regular Harley suit. And maybe that'll be more attractive to female viewers because they won't think it's just some like over sexualized thing about
Yeah.
Harley. We
Hmm.
changed it the next day. It took off and it got 1 million views.
There you go. Yeah. Exactly.
And I'm not saying that's not like, oh, that's not like a trick, like it's gonna happen every time, but that was a very clear example of like, you use these analytics to your advantage.
Hmm.
And every big YouTuber does that. And like, if you dropped out of high school, you're probably not smart enough to do that. Like for the most part, like, like,
Yeah, it would take a lot of time and experience to do that. I think it's a mix. I think especially for people like us and people like me that got into it in a time when there were so few resources and everyone was kind of just making it up as they went along. There was no rule book. There were no great channels that offered you advice on analytics and how they all worked. We were just all kind of stabbing in the dark and
mhm.
just copying each other and just seeing what worked. And based on, I remember you mentioned the whole tag thing. So I'm going to link back to, I mentioned the Batman video that I made,
Yeah.
the Arkham Origins movie. It was on track to become one of my most successful video game movies of all time,
Hmm.
but it got taken down by YouTube's community guidelines. Why?
The tags.
Yes, because I put some tags in a description. I saw other people doing it, and I was like, wait a minute, this must be like the next thing. I'm trying to compete against all these movie channels. I should do what they're doing to make sure that I've got, some extra firepower for these videos. And then what do you know? They take it down. I appeal. They say no. So it's like at 450,000 views, and the video was gone. And just as evidence of like how important all of this stuff is, I absolutely knew what would happen, but I wanted to just kind of prove myself right. So I was like, well, I have the original file. Let's just upload again. I mean, the first one got 450,000 views. Surely it should be okay. I
Hmm.
mean, it maybe not 450, but maybe it'll get like 50, 100, something. Well, I mean, I uploaded it, and I think a few years later, I had like 6,000 views or something. And it's like, well, there you go.
That's crazy. That's
That's just
crazy.
that's just how it goes. And I mean, the first hit video I ever got, it was a complete accident. It wasn't because I did something smart or I researched anything. It was a total accident. But like nowadays, obviously, once you start to make that transition into to doing this full time and doing it for a living and all that kind of thing, you have no choice but to pay attention to what's going on in the scene and how to try and maximize not just your YouTube. I mean, one thing that's really made such a huge difference for me is that I've tried my best to. I kind of ask myself the question of how can I continue to grow the channel and grow the revenue in a way that doesn't compromise on my philosophy of content.
Hmm.
And that was a tough question, and for a long time I didn't really have any good answers. And I'd make a few videos here and there that I knew was a bit more like view oriented, not just. I've never made videos purely for views. Anyone that listens to the watches the channel already knows that. But there are videos where I know that it has a chance of being a hit. It's just that's just how that idea has come to my head. And I think for me the biggest turning point was trying to make use of things like Patreon. That was the first one, and also then the 24/7 stream. And once I added those two to my arsenal, then it became this collective of like my YouTube revenue plus the Patreon support that I get plus the support like the ad revenue and the donations that I get from the stream. When I combine all three of these things now, I can still make the same content I made before, but I can earn, let's say, 30%, 50% more revenue than I could before because I diversified my income streams. And so these are the kind of things that you really do need to think about, and it's not going to come to you as just like a kid that's kind of getting into it and they've thrown everything into it and they've kind of traded in their potential future just to become like a streamer or a YouTuber or anything like that. It does take, you know, experience, and it does take some study
Yeah.
and time to be able to do it.
And on the flip side of that, I mean, like you said, it is hard to advise people because at the same time, it's like, yeah, you don't need a college education. I'm not saying you
Of
need it, but
course, yeah.
yeah, you can. There's plenty of people who did it right out of high school. I mean, you were 16 for God's sakes when you started, and you found success really early on. So yeah, I mean, it is hard to advise because there is that kind of gray area where I'm saying it's like I'm not saying you need to go to college, but it definitely is true what you were saying earlier, which is just like a lot of it is luck. It really is luck. I know for me, if that Halo 4 video, I don't know why it took off, but it did. And but if it wouldn't have taken off, I would have never have continued. I would have just called it quits, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes you need that luck. And I've seen so many people throughout the years that have come by and they're like, I'm gonna be the next big thing. I'm gonna do a video a day. And by all accounts, they do everything right. They follow the playbook step by step, and they still don't make it. You know,
Yeah.
they just don't make it because it's oversaturated. Maybe they're not good enough. Maybe their content's not original enough.
Hmm.
Um, that's that's a whole other topic too. But just like you got to come in with something unique. If you know, doing a game movie channel at this point, you're not gonna beat us. I'm sorry, you're just not.
Yeah.
Like we're too far ahead of everybody for you to beat us.
I mean, I can't beat you guys, and I already have a bunch of successful movies, and I have like 150,000 subscribers of my own. So
Yeah,
imagine me coming in with nothing and trying to upload exactly the same videos at exactly the same time. It's just not going to work.
yeah, you got to come in with something different. And a lot of people have over the years evolved this thing. Whereas in the beginning, it was just walkthroughs, and then it was commentary, let's
Hmm.
plays, and then it was full walkthroughs, then it was game movies, and then now they just cut up scenes, and like it's just it does keep evolving, and new people do keep coming in
Of
and
course.
making their mark, but they're doing something different. So if you're planning on just copying like a successful channel, it's not gonna happen unless you're breaking embargo every time. But like maybe
Yeah.
you'll probably get strikes, you know.
Yeah. You'll get caught
Um,
in the end. It's not sustainable.
And I do want to say, like, the fucking the live stream. Oh my god, you don't know how much that inspired me. That shit juiced me up when I saw it. So if people don't know, I actually tried doing this too because I was
Hmm.
inspired watching your live stream. But I thought, I was like, wow, that's such a good idea. Like, and I
Uh-huh.
thought that's so perfect for our channel. We just do twenty
It
four
is, yeah.
seven game movies.
Yeah.
Um, and I did actually do it for, I think, 4 or 5 months,
Hmm.
and it was fairly successful. We had like 150 people,
Uh-huh.
which was like okay for us, but I was trying to take it to the next level. I wasn't trying to just copy what you were doing. I I had like a sophisticated bot
Okay.
where I had like mini games in the chat. And
Okay.
I even wrote my own little games, like a little simple game where like you would type in, exclamation mark Pokeball, and then you would get a random number of, like, let's say maybe you got Pikachu and that's 50 points, or you got Gyarados, that's 150 points,
Hmm.
and or you would get nothing and then you would lose points. And then so I would give out prizes every week depending on who were like the top 5 people with points in
Damn.
the chat. So I was trying to make it really intricate, but my whole goal of it was I was ready and willing to do it and commit myself to it if I could make it take off within like 6 months.
Hmm.
If I couldn't do it, then I was like, it's just not worth my time. We have too much success with our other stuff for me to like invest time into this, you know?
Yeah.
So I gave it the good college try, and I did it for, I believe, 4 months, and then I moved it over to Twitch because they have a better system for chat games there.
Okay.
But when I moved it to Twitch, our viewership dropped even more. We're only getting like 20 to 50 viewers there.
Hmm.
But I just, when I saw that live stream, I was just like, this is fucking brilliant. And I remember when I first saw it, you only had like 20 to 30 viewers
Hmm.
consistently. Now I see you get like 150, 200,
Yeah.
250 viewers. So it's like
Hmm.
you've grown it over time, and it's just really impressive. Like, I don't know why that idea never struck me, because I always saw those 24/7 music channels,
Yeah.
and like I was like, yeah, that makes sense for a music channel. And then when I saw your channel doing it, I was like, wow, that's fucking smart. This fucking smart motherfucker.
It's again, like I've said before, it's just a light bulb moment. Sometimes you get them. I mean, at the end of the day, if you look at my channel, it's been what, like over 12 years, nearly 13 years now, and I have 150k subscribers, and I'm making videos that get like 700 views, and it's just like, well, how smart are you really then? But
Mm.
it's just, but it's I just look at it different. I mean, like I say, I try to leverage high revenue things in order to create stuff I know that's not going to generate as much revenue too. And that was just one of those things where I was like, I could try to do something like this and generate some extra passive income, because one thing I noticed was that as time goes on, it's so difficult to keep old content at the forefront of your channel. So I might have done a walkthrough of something in 2014 that I
Hmm.
think is a walkthrough. Let's just say it's Final Fantasy IX, which is one of the fan favorites, legendary game, but it's so old and it's buried under 2,000 new videos that
Yeah.
it gets harder and harder for people to find new content. And I was like, well, if I have a constantly rotating kind of serving of content that's always live on the channel, people are always going to be more likely to be like, oh, okay, I wonder what else he has on the channel, or oh, I've missed the first part of this playthrough, let me go back to the playlist and give that a watch, and that kind of thing. And it's one of those where I didn't know if it would work. I was pretty sure it wouldn't, like especially not for the long term. I thought it'd be like a little bit of a hype thing, and then within like 2 3 weeks it'd be like 10 viewers, and it would cost me more money to run than it would, you know. And I just thought it's just not going to last. But it's been like a little bit of a miracle for the channel, and I'm just super grateful to the community. I mean, most people listening to the podcast would have spent time, or they do spend time in the stream, and it's so epic. I mean, on the one hand, of course, it would have been great if your stream worked out too. I mean, there's room for everyone, because mine's a Final Fantasy stream. It's it wouldn't have competed with yours anyway. But on the one hand, knowing that even a channel as big as yours and someone that has the business knowledge of YouTube that you do, the fact that you couldn't make it work out long term, and that my kind of the little stream that could is still going. It's just it's extra nice motivation for me in that sense. So it's been great.
I mean, a great idea is a great idea, and the thing is, you stuck with it, and that's what.
Yeah,
Because I'm like you said, at first it was probably kind of like, okay, yeah, it's just 20 viewers, we're good.
yeah,
It's not, but I mean, I would comment on two things. First, you said like, well, how smart am I if I only have 150K subs after 12 years? Well, I would say it's just like from everything you've said, it's just a conscious choice you made. Like I think you knew what you needed to do if
hmm
you wanted to compete. You just weren't happy doing it or weren't willing to
yeah,
do it. So I don't think it was a matter of like, oh, I didn't know how to make my channel bigger. It's just like I just didn't want to do that. That's not what I was
hmm
into.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and the second thing with the stream, and I would say this to anybody who wants to get into something like that, which is like I knew for a fact I could make it take off if I stuck with it for a year or two,
hmm
but I didn't need to or want to. I kind of was looking for another, like, okay, hopefully this is a big hitter right away. But I knew that it would, given the size of the channel and given how good the idea is, because it's a good idea. That's the fucking thing. It's a good idea. You could do this with any type of set of content and it will work as long as you stick with it for a while. Because if you want to watch live Final Fantasy, there's only one place to go, and that's it. Like,
yeah,
it's like it's just such a good fucking idea that it's gonna work if you're dedicated to it and if it's unique and original. Which is why, like I
hmm
said, like I wanted to make mine different than yours, but kind of
hmm
piggyback on what you did, which was like, okay, man,
yeah,
so it's so smart, man. It's so fucking. You don't know how mad I was. Like good mad, like just kind
yeah.
of
I
like
get you.
fuck. Like why didn't I think of that? What the fuck?
Yeah, I think every YouTuber has those moments when they see a piece of content and they're like, "Fuck, why didn't I think of that? Like, that's such a great idea."
Yeah.
And I guess that was one of mine. Like, we have them sometimes, and I think that it's for me, honestly, I genuinely attribute a lot of the success to just how strong the community is and how good the chat is. I mean, there's been so many people, like countless people, that have come in and said that this chat is just such a great place to hang out. So many people have made friends through it. I check out other streams and their chats and that kind of thing from time to time, or like my moderator team will be like, "Hey, look, there's this new 24/7, stream for whatever game series." I'm like, "Okay,
Mhm.
cool." And like they look at the chat and they're like, it's just not the same. And like even the bigger ones, it's just ridiculous. Like I think it was Chilled Cow that has like the biggest
The music
24/7
one, yeah.
yeah, and I look at that and the chat is just ridiculous. Like who the hell what reasonable person would want to actually go in there and chat? It's just constant, like a never-ending rapid stream of just people just saying random shit and just like why does that even exist? It's just like, oh, greetings from wherever, and it disappears in like zero point 0.3 seconds, and then someone just says, I don't know, some other random thing, and it's just like, no, I want this to be like a community, and that's the main reason why I wanted to create it. And obviously, I think when you have that kind of attitude and you take steps to try and ensure that's how it's implemented, I think people get that, and we've tried to create like a safe, kind of positive place for people to commune and just talk about Final Fantasy or any other stuff that they want to chat with. And the fact that we've got so many members now, there's a lot of people that have decided to become members of the channel as a result of the stream and people that donate and all that kind of stuff. It's become like this amazing project that I was just very very fortunate to think of. But again, I mean, am I the first person to do it? Like for games, maybe, but if those 24/7 music streams didn't exist, I'm pretty certain I would never have the idea to do it. So it's always just like you kind of everyone piggybacks off other people's ideas and you see things and you modify it and it inspires you and all these kind of interesting things.
Yeah, I think for sure you're the first one because like well, not as much anymore, but I would stay really in tune with what the fuck's going on in the gaming world in YouTube,
hmm
and that's the first one I saw. And yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense with your whole philosophy that your community is so strong, and even it, like even if you were to get like 1,000 or 2,000 viewers, it might ruin the fucking stream. That's the crazy part. You can't really scale it, but you don't want to or need to.
Yeah.
And I know with me that was a big issue with my stream, was because like, okay, I wanted people to play the games in the chat, but then if they were playing the games, they weren't fucking chatting, you know?
Hmm.
They were just playing the games, and it was just an endless stream of spam of whatever the mini games were, which is one of the
Hmm.
reasons I wanted to move to Twitch, because on Twitch you can have multiple chat rooms. So it was
Yeah.
like, oh, I'll have one chat room that's just for chatting, and one of them that's just for mini games, and one of them for whatever.
Hmm.
Um, so again, it's like, I think that's really cool because what you did, because it is a reflection of your beliefs of what you want, and you're able to manipulate it to be the way you wanted it to be, and you like nurtured it that way, and that's why you've seen so much success with it. You know, that's really impressive. And I truly like. I was mad, guys. Like, I was angry when I saw it, because I was just like, why did I not think of this?
It's one of those where sometimes we hit like a new record milestone. I think to date, the most amount of concurrent viewers we've had is 424, which
Mm,
is like to me it's an insane number given like where we started from and all that stuff. And it's funny because like we get hype. Obviously, like I have my moderator team and we have our own Discord, to run the stream, and we're all friends now and we just chat all day and that kind of thing. And whenever something like that happens, there's just this mad hype, and we all get super excited that there's more views. And then I tend to, after the hype, I kind of come in and say, guys, like this is all well and good, but I kind of hope that it doesn't go up that much higher because I want to keep like the like the
yeah,
focus on, because if there's, like you say, if there's 2,000 people in there and there's 5 times as many people chatting all the time, you just cannot sustain. You can't moderate that enough. You can't. There's the flow of conversation is going to break down. So like honestly, I've always said it. Like I could earn 10 times more money if I have 3,000 viewers, but like swear to God, I'd prefer 300, and we just have a good time in there all the time. Like that's what I want for the stream. And so I don't know, like I've been toying with ideas, like if the stream ever does get any bigger and it gets too big, maybe I have to make it like member chat only or something, because I just won't be able to maintain a community that runs in the way I want it to if it's completely public and there's 2,000 people in there all the time. I can't do it. So I'd hate to do it because I hate paywalling, and it's not my kind of, again, it goes against my sort of philosophy for that kind of content. But these are just kind of little ideas I have in the back of my head. Like if it really does get that big, I need to make moves to keep, to stick to the original idea kind of thing.
I think
So we'll see.
that's a to me that's a good first step. I mean, I'm more than sure that your community wouldn't mind it at this point. Probably most of them are members anyway. Um, you could probably paywall it at $1. You know, just do the $1 membership thing instead
Hmm,
of doing it 5 or 10.
that's true.
I imagine you got the 400 when Final Fantasy VII came. That's what I would guess when Final Fantasy VII came out.
I think it was. I don't have the date. I don't actually know why. It's again, it's another one of those things. We've had peaks at fairly random times. Like, of course, the numbers definitely improved around the Final Fantasy VII remake time, but I think that number was like over the summer, like the summer of 2020, I think. So it'd
Hmm.
already been a few months since it came out. Like we can't really spot too many patterns of like when it peaks the most. But since that 424, I don't think we've gotten anywhere near that for like a long time. That was just this weird. Sometimes I think maybe a Final Fantasy content creator uploads something that really blows up, and the stream appears in like the related videos or something.
Yeah, yeah.
That's one of the things that I think probably helps it. But I don't know. I'm very happy with where it's at now, and I just hope I can keep it going for as long as I can.
Oh yeah, dude. You'll have Final Fantasy content now coming out every year.
Pretty
So
much.
you're yeah, so you get a constant stream of, because I'm sure that was, because my initial thought when I saw like just Final Fantasy, I'm like, damn, but they just keep watching the same ones over and over again, like,
Yeah.
But
And again, I think that's where the community element comes in. Like,
mhm.
because people they end up like making friends in there and that kind of thing. They maybe some of them are just pausing the video, or they're just muting it. They're not even really paying that much attention to what's being streamed. They're just there to kind of chat with their friends and have a good time and that kind of thing. And that's perfectly fine. That's also what it's there for. So
Yeah,
it
yeah.
works.
And it makes sense. What united them in the first place was their love for Final Fantasy. So it's still, I don't know,
It's on
relevant.
brand.
Yeah, it's on brand exactly.
So when it comes to your like business interests and your channel, like, are you happy to just keep things rolling as they are? You got any other like bigger ambitions for the channel or your business interests?
I think, yeah. Well, personally, like I've always been a person who, I have a lot of ambitions outside of just this. Like Gamers Little Playground to me was never the end goal. I would love to have like a movie production studio. My sister's into filmmaking. She went to school for filmmaking. My cousin did too, and
Hmm.
it's a big part of. And I love editing, so it's like that the esports team. I would love to be able to do the esports team full time. So yeah, for me, from the beginning, part of it was kind of like, well, I don't want to be a personality on my channel because I want anybody to be able to run this. So if I'm not there, it doesn't. Nobody knows who I am. It doesn't matter. All that matters is the content. And I from the very beginning, I started thinking about it from a business perspective, where it's just like I can build it and then just hire people to run it for me if I need to, because you don't need, it's not like PewDiePie, like you don't need me on there. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
um so yeah, like the past couple of years I've been really into crypto and
Hmm.
investing into that, making money with that.
Hmm.
And I think Gamers Little Playground at this point is done, as far as like, it is what it is. It's a game movie channel. We always try different types of formats with content, and some hit and some don't. But at the
Hmm.
end of the day, as long as the game movies are on there, then that's what our subscribers want.
Hmm.
And there's nothing more to build up. It's now it just needs to be run, and be constantly somebody run. Whereas in the beginning, aside from like loving video games, which I truly love video games, but the excitement was to build something. That was what the excitement was to like build this structure, build this format, figure out how it's going to work as a business. Like I really enjoy doing that aspect of it. So I would say like within like 2 or 3 years, hopefully, I probably won't be working on the channel anymore, and I own the channel now full time with a cousin of mine, the one that came on with me, and like we split everything 50-50 from profits.
Hmm.
And so I imagine he'll continue doing it full time because he really he could do it the rest of his life if he wants to, if he wanted to. But I know for me, it's like I don't get the same excitement from it anymore, as far as like I don't, there's nothing more to build. It's done.
Hmm.
And I'm proud of it. I love the channel. It's part of my story, a part of my personal legacy
Hmm.
forever.
Hmm.
But I hope to be able to build other stuff in the future.
Yeah, I like that. I like that approach, and to me that's talk of someone that genuinely has like ambition and like you have that business kind of brain, because it's with YouTube it's very easy to sort of get into a groove and just be like, well, what I'm doing right now works. I don't need to really do anything more than what I'm already doing. Just kind of stick to this, and that's great. But with you, like I say, from the beginning, you've had a different sort of approach, and even the fact that, like you say, you didn't want to be like a personality or a face on the channel. And most people, if I was to say like, oh, Mike from Games Little Playground, they'd be like, who?
Yeah,
And
who?
and that's cool, because that's like you say, it's then you're able to turn that into like a more of a side thing that you don't need to be as hands on with in the future, because at the end of the day, if it was really about you, then the second you want to do something else, then the channel dies and it relies so much on you.
And another thing is, I was conscious of very early on, and I'm sure you've experienced this, where it's just like you get burnt out, like because
Yeah.
you were saying like you when you try to tell people that it's hard work, it's hard to tell them that, because of course it's not like going down in a mine and mining
Yeah.
for 12. It's not, it's obviously not difficult physical work,
Hmm.
but the mental toll that YouTube takes on you is extreme, because if you're trying to do it for a livelihood and do it full time, it's a 24/7 job. Like,
Hmm.
no matter what's going on in your life, if a new game comes out, that's what the fuck you're doing. You're not doing anything else. You're not going to the wedding. You're not taking your girlfriend out. You're not doing anything else but doing this new game, because if you miss this game, then that just leaves the door open for some other channel to do the
Hmm.
game, and then they get big, and then now you spawned your next competitor. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. Especially when you do it at the level that you do it. I mean, you have people that you work with, people that you pay as well. So it's all kind of connected. It becomes something just bigger than just you. And so
Yeah.
you have to treat it with that sort of respect and that sort of attention to make sure that you stay on top of your game.
But that's exactly why too I didn't want to do any personality thing, because it's like those are the people that burn out the fastest, because it's just
Mm,
like you have to be on at all times, and there's times where you don't want to be on mic and you don't want to talk in the camera,
hmm
but you have to, otherwise you lose your viewers, you lose your subscribers. And it's just like I was conscious of that, not like from the beginning but very early on, because I would do podcasts and stuff like that. I would try to do some camera stuff,
hmm
but I realized there was times like we would do our podcast and I didn't want to do it that week, but we had to do it because we promised we'd do it every fucking week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was conscious of that, of just I don't want to burn out. Like I want to do this for the long run, and I know if I don't have the type of personality where I can just be on all the time, you
Yeah.
know. So it's just
Yeah.
something to consider if you're trying to get into YouTube. That burnout is probably like the biggest fucking factor of people like losing their channels. Like it's just you get burnt out. You get burnt out because if you're not doing a video, you're thinking about doing your next video or ideas for another video. So
Yeah.
you got to take that into consideration for sure.
That's absolutely true. I mean, the fact that it's a 24/7 job is definitely at that sort of level is definitely very clear. Like I was thinking back and I thought whenever I tend to tell my subscribers that like, oh yeah, I'm kind of, slowing down and I'm not, going to be working as much. I think back on it and even during those periods it's like, nah, not really, man. I'm still doing stuff. Like I'm still thinking about stuff, I'm looking at stuff, I'm editing stuff. And it's like I haven't truly taken a break where I've been like, I'm not editing, I'm not looking at like YouTube related stuff. I'm not planning for videos. I'm not doing anything. I haven't done that in many years now. And
Yeah.
it's like I haven't had a proper break. And it's like I don't feel burnt out. There's been times where it's kind of crept up on me, but one thing I've always done is just I try to be honest with people that follow me and I try to just sort of I always appreciate and I'm grateful for the viewership, but I'm just like, look, man, I do things my way. And if you don't like that, then you sorry, but I need to take care of myself like mentally, and it's the only way that you're going to get the best content from me. So I just don't let my follower sort of subscriber base consume me in that sense. It's like if I'm feeling like I need to slow down, then I'll upload a series like 2 videos a week, 3 videos a week, maybe 1 video a week. It's just I just do what I need to do to sort of keep myself sane and to stop myself burning out. And I just, you know, thankfully, like most of the people that follow me, they respect that. They're not kind of hounding me for like, oh, when's the next content? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? I do things my own way and I do it at my own pace. And I think that's probably how I've managed to sort of stay in the game for so long and still be, still maintain my energy and my enthusiasm for what I do.
Yeah, and that all goes to your philosophy for sure, because you probably could have forced yourself, and you might have had 400,000 or 500,000 subs, but you probably would have quit.
Yeah.
So like it would have all been for naught. So
Yeah, and either that or I just wouldn't be enjoying it in the same way. Like I completely understand your approach and your philosophy, but it's because my channel in that sense is just so personal to me. It's always just been me and the content that I make. I've never been able to look at it that far along the spectrum because then I would just stop. I would just my head would always say to me, well, you should have just if your main goal was just to grow the channel as much as you can and make as much money as you can, then I should have just gone into finance when I was 21 and I
mhm.
would have had way more money in my bank account right now by the age of 30 than I would as a YouTuber. And if because I get to do something that I enjoy so much, I try just to focus as much as I can on just the content I create and how much I enjoy what I'm creating and having the freedom to make what I want to make. But of course, like we say, because it's a business and because we got to make money, I do try to be innovative and think of ideas to help diversify my income. And sometimes I've got to make videos that I'm hoping are going to be hits and all that kind of stuff. So it's never perfect, no job is, but I try my best to find that balance.
you got to compromise, but you know, at least you do it on your terms, and that's the important thing. And then like I guess that's another advice for people who are looking to get into YouTube, which is just like you got to be self aware. You got to be self aware of what type of person you are and
Yeah.
what you want. And I think a lot of people struggle with that because they'll probably just want to copy the most successful channel, or they just want to be just like this. But you have to be self aware to know what you want. And just from our talk, I like, for me it is that feeling of like I enjoy the business of business. So
Hmm.
the content I enjoy too, but it doesn't need to be the end all be all for me. Whereas for you, it is more personal, and you want to enjoy it more often than not, you know.
Hmm.
So it's just it's good to know to know yourself.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess we're proof in that sense that both methods can work. It doesn't, you don't have to have one
Hmm.
view or the other. Not everyone wants to be as big as Gamers Little Playground, and not everyone, and there's some people that want their channel to be bigger and more successful than mine is, and you have to find what works for you and what keeps you motivated for the long term, because it's just it's not a sprint. You got to, once you get there, that's when the work really begins. Then you have to maintain and just keep doing what you're doing. And if you're not enjoying yourself, and if it's pushing you too hard, then you're just not going to last.
Yeah. We've seen so many people quit throughout the years. It's absolutely true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think you've got like a, in terms of the business side, I like the movie idea stuff as well. I think it's a good transition for you.
Hmm.
I kind of did it backwards, where I initially went into the filmmaking world. So just as like a final sort of part of our conversation here, I was always into movies and filmmaking, that kind of thing. But I was just a fan of watching films. I wasn't one of these, like, I was 8 years old with a camera making films or anything.
Steven Spielberg making like stop motion animation at 9. Yeah.
Exactly. I didn't have anything like that. I think once I figured out how to download movies for free, like as a young teen, that was like a revelation for me, because I could just watch any film I wanted at any time. And
Mm.
so then I got like big into watching films. I was just watching everything that I could download. And then I just got really into it. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if I could be a part of a team that makes these films someday? And it was just like, that would be nice. But then it was just like one of these things where it's like, okay, that's a pipe dream. You're not going to end up in Hollywood or wherever, just like working on the next big film kind of thing. And the
Mhm.
reality was, I was pretty good in school, and neither of my parents had been to university or like had higher education. So they were like, look, you've got the ability, just go and study at university. You're good at economics, and that sort of thing is definitely, it could be a good life for you. And I thought, as like a 16, 17-year-old, go to uni, just get that economics degree, get into finance. By the time I'm like 30, maybe I'll be able to buy a nice house or have a nice car or whatever. And that's just, that's my life. And then once I actually got into uni and I started studying, it was just like, nah, I don't want this life. I saw those people, like, their ambitions and their drive just wasn't the same as mine for that kind of thing. And I thought I've made a mistake, like, in terms of where I want to be in like 10 years. So then it was just like, what are my interests? Like, what do I want to do? And it's just like, video games and movies. They were like the two things that I love the most. And for me, like, the opportunity came again. It's just one of those things that's just luck. My mum's brother is a producer for like a small boutique media company, filmmaking company
Mhm.
in Turkey, and they work on like commercials and that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, this guy is like my literal foot in the door to learning the trade and like getting into the world of filmmaking. So once I was done with uni, my channel was doing well. Well, it was doing better. I was starting to earn some, like, side hustle money, let's say. And I was thinking, okay, so this can fund my sort of adventure into trying to become a filmmaker. So I moved to Turkey, where my uncle lives. And so at the end of 2014, I'd moved out there to pursue this dream of being a filmmaker. And my YouTube money was sort of helping me like pay my rent and all that stuff while I was trying to get into this world. And I spent a few years there, and I managed to actually, get somewhere. I directed a few TV commercials. I directed a few episodes of a TV program. I made a documentary and all this kind of stuff. And I was really enjoying it. But I think over time I grew a bit disillusioned with it. Like once I'd started to gain a bit of experience, and you start to see the more difficult sides of commercial filmmaking,
Mm-hmm.
and all these like personal projects we had, and things that we wanted to make, we just weren't able to make them. And I sort of started to get a bit disillusioned, and work started to go badly. And during all of this like entire narrative, my YouTube channel is something that I never gave up on, and I just kept working on, like whenever I had free time, just kept making content, kept making content. And by the end of like 2018, I was like, my disillusionment with the film world was at an all-time high. And also that was a time when I'd made the stream, and everything was going really well with the stream, and the channel was doing so well. It started earning me enough where I could say, okay, this is like a full-time job now, like the amount of money I'm earning from this. And I thought, you know what, like I don't I don't need to carry on this sort of filmmaking grind. Like I'd rather grind on YouTube because I'm enjoying the day-to-day grind of YouTube more. The content that I'm creating is reaching a wider audience. I'm starting to get more people like to know me and invest in me. So like through Patreon or through people that know me on YouTube. And I was like, at the end of the day, if I keep doing this, maybe someday I'll have enough money or enough backing through my YouTube exploits so I can leverage that back into the filmmaking world.
Mm-hmm.
So that maybe in like 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, when I'm like, okay, I want to shoot a movie now, or I want to make this big documentary now, I'll have the firepower to do it myself without having to go through the system of filmmaking and climb the ranks and, suck up to the right people, know the right people, all that kind of stuff. I can kind of bypass that system by using my YouTube channel and everything that I generate from that. So that's why I decided to transition full time into YouTube in like 2019. And that's sort of the path I'm on. So eventually I am trying to see if I can get back into doing some filmmaking type stuff as well. But for now, I'm just sort of enjoying the success and the day-to-day growth of the YouTube content.
So is that still for sure on your mind, like that you do want to get back into filmmaking, or has a YouTube channel kind of been like, oh, you know what, I really love this. I don't really need this other thing.
I think it's got to a stage where I can do both. I mean, I've always, ever since 2012 or so, I've had jobs where I've also done YouTube on the side. So YouTube is something that I never see myself having to give it up. Like even
Mm-hmm.
if I'm busy with other things, it's always there. I can always make content for it. And the filmmaking stuff is like, I know I can do it because I have done it and I have like my own sort of show reel and portfolio and all that kind of stuff. I know I'm capable. But for me, it's kind of similar to YouTube where it's like I need the right project. I need to maybe think of something or write something. So I think I need to have like my live stream idea moment with filmmaking where I need to come up with something that's like, damn, this idea is so good. I've got to make this film, like whatever that film might be.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna, hopefully get into that kind of thing as well. So I can definitely see myself getting back into that world eventually. But for now, I'm happy with just doing the YouTube stuff.
You need that inspiration, the light bulb, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
How hard was the conversation with your parents? Like, were they supportive of going to
Um,
full time YouTube?
I think they were. I think they were. My dad was a bit more like pragmatic. He in that sense, he's a simple man where at the end of the day, if you're earning enough money through what you're doing, he doesn't really care. Like,
Mm-hmm.
before it was always like, well, you're putting in all this effort, but you're not earning very much money from it. Like, are you sure this is worth your time? Because you could be doing other things with the time and that kind of stuff. So he took a very sort of practical approach. And once I got to the stage where I was like, well, okay, I'm earning X, Y, Z, and he was like, oh, okay, like, that means that
You're good. Yeah, this is good. This is like a real thing.
exactly. That's all because I mean he's thinking of me and like he wants to make sure that I'm financially secure and all that kind of stuff. He doesn't want me to spend all my time on YouTube and end up having financial difficulties as a result and that kind of thing. So once he became convinced of that, he was on board. And of course, he appreciates the fact that I've managed to grow this sort of audience and community, and there's a lot of great people that I've met and become friends with through my YouTube exploits and that kind of thing. But with my mum, it was a bit more sort of emotional in the sense that she was a bit more like, I know your dream was to be a filmmaker and to, write and direct your own film someday. It feels like you're kind of giving up on your dream.
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, okay, I get you, but honestly, like that's not where my head's at. I'm very young. I was like 27, 28 at the time, and I was like, film directing, like go look up your film directors. Most of them don't make a lot of their best films until like their 30s or their early 40s and that kind of thing. I could I could decide to make a film when I'm 50, and if it's the right script and I have the right people around me, I can make the film whenever the hell I want. I've got enough like industry experience, and I know people that can get things done where I'm not worried about time anymore. So I was like, this is something that I know I can do, but this is at the moment the things that I thought I could achieve with filmmaking. I'm achieving most of that and more with what I'm creating on YouTube. So will it be enough to like satisfy me creatively for the rest of my life? No, I don't think so. But like for this current sort of space for like the next few years or whatever, I'm pretty sure that there won't be a time when I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of bored of this YouTube stuff. I don't want to do it anymore. So, but I've definitely left the door open, and I do want to get back into creating like more filmmaking type stuff eventually.
That's impressive that she came at you from that angle too. I mean, that just goes to show probably the type of relationship you guys have. That she was looking at it from that angle of just kind of like, I don't want you to give up your dream, you know, like this is
Hmm.
what you said you wanted. Whereas a lot of parents would probably be more like your dad, which is just kind of pragmatic, you know, like this doesn't
Hmm.
make any sense. This is not a real thing.
Yeah.
Um, and I get that feeling of, because I think a lot of people struggle with that of just proving it to their parents. So like, this is a real thing that we can make this happen, you know, and that's a lot of people hold themselves back, not just in YouTube, but just with following their dreams in general, just because they want to satisfy their parents'
Yeah.
need for them to be comfortable, I guess.
Hmm. I think for me, because I always had, I never really did YouTube full time until it was already a full time level job, if that makes sense. Like, because
Hmm.
that made it a bit easier. So I never, like with you, you said that you basically went all in. I
Hmm.
never went all in with my channel. Because I was just always worried about like, what if I get three copyright strikes and my channel dies, or, what if something happens, there's a lawsuit and YouTube has to shut down or whatever. I was just always worried that if I went all in on this, I could just fall flat on my face and I wouldn't be able to get back up. So I always, and I was very, very lucky that I got to pursue other dreams and had professions I was always interested in. I mean, I'm extremely lucky in that I've never had to do a job I didn't want to do. Any job I've ever done in my life, it's been a job that I genuinely wanted to do. So that always made things a lot easier. And I think my parents, they always knew that I was just that type of person that I always try my best to do what I want, unless it's one of these situations where I must do a job, otherwise I'm not going to be able to keep a roof over my head, or I can't feed. If I have a family, I can't feed my family. Of course, I'll do what I have to do, but unless it's like sort of that kind of life or death sort of situation, I will always just go for what I want and try to make that happen. So they've always been by my side. As soon as I said to them, this like economics, finance stuff is not really my world. I'm not that interested in it. They're always like, that's cool. You've got your degree. If you ever change your mind, if you ever want to get into like a more, you know, quote unquote normal job, it's there for you. You can do it. But they've always been behind me, and I always thank them for that. They've always been generally supportive, and they've challenged me in the right ways. So I appreciate them for that.
That's, yeah, that's such a blessing. I mean, my parents are the same way. They're super supportive. I know a lot of people, like I said, that they struggle with that. So
Hmm.
we're definitely lucky in that regard, and maybe that's indicative of why we've been able to be successful in our ventures, because that support is everything. Like, that support means everything.
100%. Yeah.
I know my parents are a little different, or I guess it just goes to show it's kind of cool thinking about it, because people are getting two different perspectives. Like, I did go all in, and that's just my personality. Like, if I'm gonna do it, I'm doing it 100% with
Hmm.
every single fucking thing in life. It's like it's either 0 or 100. Otherwise, what's the point? In my head, that's the way I
Hmm.
think. And I know with my parents, they've always just had blind faith in me. Like, it was just like, if I said I'm gonna do it, then I'm gonna do it, and they just believe that I'll do it, and they don't question it, and they just give me all the support. And I also think it might be a cultural thing, or like, our family is from Central America, from El Salvador and Nicaragua,
Hmm.
south of Mexico.
Hmm.
We came to the United States. My parents came as immigrants and that type of thing. So you just come in, like me and all my cousins and my sisters and my brother, like we just come into the whole, like we came here to do something, like that's just
Yeah.
built into our culture of just like we came to the States, we came to the United States to make something of ourselves. We're not here to fuck around, like.
Yeah.
And we're poor, like super impoverished growing up, like super poor. My dad was a drug addict, was in and out of jail, um, alcoholic, all that type of stuff. Like it wasn't great, but my mom pulled us through and always kind of instilled that into us of just kind of like, you can do whatever you want. You can live out your dreams. That's why we're here in America. This is the point. This is why we came here. You're bound by nothing. You can do whatever you want. It's just up to you to make it happen.
Hmm.
And those type of things, I think, stick with you, even though you don't know it, but they stick with you throughout your life. They're always kind of in the back of your head.
Yeah, I think that's it's definitely such a powerful motivator. And again, like it's one of those things that we take for granted. I think sometimes just having even just like supportive parents or a parent or like siblings or like close friends, family, that kind of thing. It's especially with this YouTube stuff because it's such a again, it's such a new profession, such a new world. It can be a little bit lonely and isolating at times because in your day to day life, you don't have as many people that you can share those experiences with,
Yep.
and it's difficult. Like I can't like with my dad, I can kind of talk about the business of YouTube because obviously numbers, business, that sort of stuff. It makes a bit more sense, but I can't be like, oh yeah, dad, I'm uploading Bioshock 2. The DLC was pretty good. Do you get what I mean? It's like it's
Yeah.
not. I can't share those things with him. He's not that kind of dad, and my
Yeah.
mum's the same and that kind of thing. So, but despite that, knowing that even though they don't fully kind of understand what you're doing, the fact that they believe in you and they're behind you, I think is just definitely very powerful. My family is similar in that sense. We came from Turkey originally. My mum and dad were born in Turkey,
Hmm.
and my dad came to the UK when he was like 7 years old, I think, in the early 70s. A lot of his side of the family, they came to work in the textile factories in London, and that's how they came over as like immigrants. Just they came to work. That their initial dream was just to like come over here, make a little bit of money, and just like take it back to Turkey and just
Yeah.
be a bit more comfortable. But then they stuck around, and they built something for themselves. And I think maybe like cultures or backgrounds like ours, they kind of appreciate that sort of go-getter attitude a bit more, I think, maybe than some other cultures potentially. And I think especially for your story, I like how often you reference your like your sister, your cousins. You've tried to create something that you collaborate with your family and you keep everyone involved. And I think that's a really special part of it as well.
Yeah, and it just has to be with us. It's like everything you have to do together. It's almost like you don't even think about it. Like we have to make it together. You're not gonna make it by yourself. And it is a cultural thing, and I imagine it's probably the same with your background too. Like very very family oriented.
Hmm. Yeah.
And like you said, we do appreciate that kind of go getter mentality more. Not because people, let's say in the States, aren't go getters, but it's just because your circumstances are dire. Like if your parents
Hmm.
came with that situation, it's kind of like you have to put you struggled, they struggled, and they appreciate that struggle, and so that makes you have that mentality more. And I think when you're kind of several generations in a country, you probably have a lot of comfort,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
that comfort can make you complacent. Not everybody, but it's more,
Sure.
you tend to see it a lot. You tend to see a lot of immigrant kids come into countries and be successful because they have to be, because they go through the struggle, and that's a big thing.
Hmm.
If It's one of my biggest fears, actually, is like now that I'm well off and I'm successful, and I think about when I have kids, like it would kill me to have spoiled kids. Like it would, like,
Yeah.
but I almost, like, I don't know how I'm gonna be as a father, because I imagine, like, I tell myself, like, okay, I'll make sure to teach them discipline. I'll teach them they got to work for whatever they get. But then I can also imagine myself just remembering how hard it was growing up and just like giving them whatever they want, just because I want to spoil them.
Yeah. That can't be easy, man. That chapter of my life, for now, is must be at least a few years away. But it's just again, it's just got to be finding some kind of balance. I don't think there's really a rule book on it. It's just everyone finds their own way, and I'm sure it'll work out in the end. You sound like, you know, the kind of person that probably you've lived kind of both sides. You've lived the struggle and you've had the success, and I'm sure you'll be able to kind of, give them what they need in that sense, so they have the right balance of needing to do things on their own, but also getting to enjoy like the fruits of your labor. So I'm sure it'll work out.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah. Okay, we got deep near the end. I think we should slowly start to wrap this up.
For sure.
It's been really good to have you on. It's been really good to chat. Before you, like most of the people I've had on so far have been like people that create Final Fantasy content and that kind of thing. But the goal of this podcast eventually was to try and sort of branch out a bit more. Speak to people about other things, different games, different industries, different topics. And so it's been refreshing to have you on, and I hope that the listeners appreciate like a different perspective and a different world as well. So thanks for joining me today.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. It was a pleasure.
See you next time.